Hi everyone, I'm going to talk about structured decision making with natural capital accounts and ecosystem service models for the ForES project. My name is Yvonne Buckley. I'm Professor of Zoology at Trinity College Dublin, and I co-direct Nature Plus, the Trinity Centre for Biodiversity and Sustainable Nature-Based Solutions. So structured decision making is a process of decision analysis for natural resources. The kinds of decisions we need to make around environmental problems are often very complex. And what we do with structured decision making is we decompose the problem and we use value-focused thinking to structure the process of working through a problem and coming to various options for decision makers. So it's led by the stakeholders. So that's you within Coillte. You need to understand your goals and desires. So the strategy that you have for delivering on ecosystem services across your estate or within an individual site. And then we need clarity around the objectives, the constraints and the trade-offs of the system that we're trying to model and make decisions around. And what structured decision-making will provide is some guidance as to the appropriate decision that needs to be made given the constraints and trade-offs that we've identified, ultimately delivering back on your objectives. So structured decision-making won't make a decision for you. It won't pop out the correct decision to make from a model, but what it will do is it'll give you a transparent and robust process for making that decision, so that if you're asked to report on how a particular decision was arrived at, you have a clear process that shows the inputs, the trade-offs, the constraints, and the circumstances in which that decision was made. So here's the whole process of structured decision-making. In the ForES project, we are using natural capital accounts as a key data source, and we're also using a Bayesian belief model of the connection between natural capital accounts and ecosystem service supply as core parts of the modeling process. So the very first thing we need to do is identify the problem. So for this project, we've already identified an existing portfolio of assets, so a certain number of sites. We've identified through the work that you have done on your strategy, ecosystem service, what kinds of ecosystem services you're looking to deliver on and get dividends from. And then what we're looking to do in future workshops is identify what are the critical decisions that need to be made at the site level or the portfolio level, and who are the decision makers. So we need to make sure that whatever structured support or decision support tools that we produce are appropriate for who is going to use them and for the decisions that they're trying to make. We then work with stakeholders to define your specific objectives for this, for the kinds of decisions that are being made using the support that we'll provide. So we need to know what your investment and return objectives are. So sometimes decisions around where do we invest a certain amount of budget in order to get the best return on investment, or what do we need to do, or how much do we need to invest in order to get a certain level of ecosystem service supply, for example. So they're kind of two ways of looking at the same problem. We define the possible actions that can be taken. So we are developing natural capital accounts, the quality, quantity, and location of your natural assets. We will develop a model of ecosystem service supply from the natural capital accounts using a Bayesian Belief Network modeling approach. We'll define management scenarios. So what is it that can be manipulated within that system? Is it the quality, the quantity, or the location of particular natural assets that can be changed? And what are the consequences of making those changes, making those management decisions? And we'll use the BBN model here to model the effects of management scenarios on ecosystem service supply using the natural capital accounts and using the Bayesian Belief Network model to assess the consequences of actions. This will then allow us to analyze the model outputs to identify synergies and trade-offs, and the net flow of multiple services arising from our natural capital using the Bayesian Belief Network model. And then finally, it's up to you to make the decision. But what we'll provide is strategic and tactical decision support tools. There's feedback throughout this process. Like everything in research, it is not linear. We might demonstrate it as a linear process, but actually there's a bit of backwards and forwards going on. And as we develop the model, we'll be looking to see what kinds of management scenarios we can model, and then that information will feed back. Perhaps we'll need to collect a little bit more data. Perhaps we need to include a different kind of site in order to get it where we want to be. So there'll be a little bit of backwards and forwards in the middle here. And then we'll be developing decision support tools. So this is where the identification of critical management decisions and the mapping of decision makers is particularly important. We need to know who we're supporting and what kinds of decisions we're supporting. And we'll provide strategic decision support materials. So these might be rules of thumb, for example, around approximately what proportion of an estate or a portfolio or a site is needed under different kinds of management in order to provide for a certain level of ecosystem service supply. We may get to the stage of providing tactical decision support tools. These are more interactive, so it's at the site level, what needs to be done at this site, given exactly the kinds of natural capital assets that are actually in that site. So that's more the tactical end of things. And then we'll evaluate our decision support materials and tools back with the decision makers to see if they're fit for purpose. And again, there can be a bit of refinement of the tools and the support materials here to make sure that they are actually helpful in terms of the decisions that you need to make. So, and a key scientific output here will be a paper on operationalizing strategic and tactical decision support for multiple ecosystem services using natural capital accounts. Thank you.